Shakespeare, the artist of human nature. This is what a contemporary of his, the great poet Ben Jonson, had to say about Shakespeare. To the memory of my beloved, the author, Mr. William Shakespeare, and what he hath left us. Soul of the age, the applause, delight, the wonder of our stage, my Shakespeare, rise. I will not lodge thee by Chaucer or Spenser, or bid Beaumont lie a little further to make thee a room. Thou art a monument without a tomb, and art alive still, while thy book doth live, and we have wits to read and praise to give. In these beautiful lines, Ben Jonson gives us an idea of the greatness of Shakespeare. Shakespeare is an eternal artist, an artist for all times, because he speaks of the human heart in conflict with itself. He writes of the problems of the spirit, which is why we admire his characters, which is why his characters continue to move us. Othello is one such drama of an imperfect man and hero. Unlike what we would expect of a hero, Shakespeare's heroes suffer from some fundamental limitation. There is something missing in their character. There is some loss that they experience as human beings. It is this imperfectness in the character of his heroes that makes them so attractive to us as modern readers. I'll summarize to you briefly what the story of Othello is all about. Othello is a brave general and a kind and a generous human being. But his fundamental problem is suspicion. And being a passionate man, a deeply emotional man, he can easily be persuaded to go against his own good intentions. That's where Iago comes into the picture. Iago is a rational, scheming, devilish kind of a villain. He has no conscience. Conscience is alien to Iago. Iago will stop to nothing. And Iago's aim is to destroy Othello one way or the other. And the only way he can destroy Othello is by playing on his emotions, by playing on his weaknesses. Othello's biggest weakness being his suspicion. And Iago succeeds in doing that. He constantly feeds Othello's suspicion and makes Othello suspicious of his own wife, Desdemona, the innocent Desdemona. Of course, eventually, Othello is so mad with jealousy that he ends up killing his wife and killing himself too. Iago is exposed, but it is too late. By then, Othello has committed a great crime. So his destruction is inevitable. I would like to, in the process of speaking about the play, comment on numerous film versions that have been made of Othello. One such film version or one such play version in the 20th century was done by none other than the great black actor, Paul Robeson. Paul Robeson was not only an actor, but he was also a civil rights activist. And being a black man himself, he could put himself into the image of Othello and reflect some of the concerns of the black man in the 20th century.
Shakespeare, the genius that he was, seemed to foreshadow and understand many of the problems that have since arisen in our world, perhaps were present then. First, I would say that here is a part which has dignity for the Negro actor. Often we don't get those opportunities. And I would say that my people will be very proud of my or any other Negro actor appearing in such a part. I think also that to me Othello is one of a different culture. Shakespeare insists that he's African. Some argument whether the word black and the fact that he's from Africa is very clear to me. And that Shakespeare posed this problem of a, say, black man in a white system. Just come over from America and would like to say pass and chance and dew for the morning dew. And I happened to pick up an old script of Shakespeare, and the dew was very clear. It was D-I-E-W, and it was not chance, C-H-A-U-N-C-E, so it was dew, like in lieu of, and chance and dance, very, very Shakespearean of me. And one terrible, difficult sound was almost at the beginning of the play, my services, which I have done the signory, my services. I would say my services, I had to work on that very hard. But later I took some special work at the University of London, and also in my university days I majored in English, and I have records from the earliest time, from time of Anglo-Saxons, as a matter of fact, through Chaucer. And of course, since I worked on my songs with Roger Quilter, and I would have to use the role. I couldn't walk out here and say, drink to me only with thine eyes, and I will pledge with mine. It's got to be very, drink to me only with thine eyes, and I will pledge with mine.
For Paul Robeson, Othello embodies everything that the black man has to go through in the modern age or in white male-dominated society. So Othello, in a way, is the alter ego of the black man. So that kind of representation Paul Robeson gives Othello. There are other great actors like Laurence Olivier and Orson Welles who played Othello, to perfection. But they are white actors who have to blacken their faces to play Othello.
Why I should fear, I know not, since guiltiness I know not, and yet I fear.
That handkerchief, which I so loved and gave thee, thou gavest to Cassio.
No, by my life and soul, send for the man and ask him.
Sweet soul, take heed of perjury, thou art on thy deathbed.
Lord have mercy.
I say amen.
You have mercy, too. I never did love Cassio in my life.
I saw the handkerchief.
He found it then, I never gave it him. Send for him hither, let him confess the truth.
He hath confessed.
What, my lord?
That he hath used thee.
How unlawfully.
Aye.
He will not say so.
No, his mouth is stopped. Honest Iago hath ta'en order for it.
What, is he dead?
Had all his hairs been lives, my great revenge had stomach for them all. Oh, strumpet! Weep thou for it to my face!
Banish me, my lord, but kill me not.
Oh, strumpet!
Kill me tomorrow, let me live tonight.
While Paul Robeson is a black man actually playing the role of a black man. So it gives some kind of an authenticity or genuineness to the role, which probably we don't notice, even in such a great actor as Laurence Olivier. But the second most important thing is, cinema has a language of its own. We need to understand that. The language of the cinema is unique to the cinema. It's a language different from the language of the theater. So 20th century filmmakers have been able to skillfully adapt Shakespeare to suit the cinema, to suit the audience of the cinema. So in a way, they are translating the language of the theater or the language of the drama, the language of the play into the language of the cinema. And as you well know, cinema is selective. the language of the cinema is limited in terms of duration. So certain aspects of the play are selected to suit the demands of the language of the cinema. The version that I used for this particular talk is where Lawrence Fishburne, the black actor, plays the role of Othello, and Irene Jacob, the famous French actress, plays Desdemona. Only one comment I wish to make in this version is that Desdemona, which is played by Irene Jacob, tends to use a more Mediterranean kind of accent. Maybe this is just to suit the fact that she is a Venetian or the daughter of a Venetian. Two themes are very important in this play. One is race and the other is gender. Actually, gender is the dominating theme of the play. Race is secondary to gender. Because you have to remember one thing, that at the heart of any culture is the man-woman conflict. I mean, in any male-dominated society, what we call love does not depend on faith, but on power. So love is about power and not about trust, and not really about faith. It may begin with the innocence of faith, but ultimately it is power that matters. How much power the man has over the woman, or how much power the woman has over the man. So this conflict is there even in Shakespeare. And he reflects this conflict in the character of Othello and in the character of Desdemona. Desdemona is shown as passive, loving, kind, generous, and so on and so forth. Othello is a passionate man, but like all passionate men, he can be dangerous too, because his nature is such that he can love in extreme or hate in extreme. Othello is a black man in a white society, and he has to prove his loyalty. The black man has to constantly prove that he is loyal to what the state expects of him. And Othello goes out of the way. He's extremely loyal to the state of Venice. He is loyal to the Duke. And being a generous man, he's respected, admired by the Venetians in general, by the Duke, by everyone around him. So that aspect to Othello is that there is this contradiction in his character. On the one hand, his real identification probably would be with the Turks whom the Venetians are fighting in the island of Cyprus. But no, his loyalty is to Christian Venice and to Christian values, and to prove himself that although he is a black man, he is a honest person, and his integrity is beyond question. So that kind of contradiction Othello has to live. But Desdemona is attracted to him. She finds there is something in Othello's character that is also innocent, that is also trusting, and that is also deeply affectionate. And Desdemona responds to it. Desdemona responds to the fact that Othello is a daring man and that he has been through great suffering and that he had an adventurous life, and she falls for him. What happens in the process is that she loses the love of her father. Her father is broken-hearted, that how could someone so white, so fair and so pure as Desdemona fall in love with someone who is so black and so distasteful as Othello. This is what Brabantio says, the father of Desdemona. "O thou foul thief, where hast thou stowed my daughter? Damned as thou art, thou hast enchanted her. For I'll refer me to all things of sense, if she in chains of magic were not bound. Whether a maid so tender, fair and happy, so opposite to marriage, that she shunned the wealthy curled darlings of our nation, would ever have to incur a general mock, run from her guardage to the sooty bosom of such a thing as thou, to fear not to delight. Judge me the world, if it is not gross incense that thou hast practiced on her with foul charms, abused her delicate youth with drugs or minerals that weaken motion, I'll have it disputed on. It is probable and palpable to thinking." So he says, how can she fall for someone like you? It's not natural, unless you did some magic to her, you see. Unless you have done something to her, you have drugged her. There's something that has happened. How can she love you? It's impossible for anyone to love you. But the Duke responds, "If virtue no delighted beauty lack, your son-in-law is far more fair than black." So even the Duke wants to persuade Brabantio, the father of Desdemona, that look, Othello is only black from the outside, but he's fair inside or white inside. Nevertheless, Shakespeare shows, one thing is clear here, what Shakespeare shows, that there is racism in this society. It's a racist society. So even when they want to be nice to the black man, they want to say, "Oh, you're not that black, You may be black from the outside, but you're white inside." They don't want to accept the fact that blackness has nothing to do with beauty. Beauty is not about black or white. Beauty is free of these concerns. Because, look, what we call beautiful is something we have been taught, something that we have learned to believe. It's not something natural. So, in a way, Shakespeare shows, that Desdemona is attracted to Othello not because he is not black, but probably because he is black. That she is physically attracted to Othello. Her attraction is not just to Othello, the person, but the man Othello. She is attracted to him, to his looks. So there is an aesthetics or a beauty in blackness that Shakespeare insists on showing, that Shakespeare somehow expresses through the character of Othello. But then Roderigo, one of the characters who is in love with Desdemona, is deeply unhappy with what has happened. And he goes to Iago and he asks Iago to do something about it. Iago is unhappy because Othello has chosen Cassio as his lieutenant and has ignored Iago. And for some reason, Iago is deeply bitter about it and wants to have his revenge on Othello. He somehow wants to destroy him. And he keeps persuading Roderigo, telling him not to worry, that sooner or later Desdemona will be tired of Othello and that she'll begin to show interest in Roderigo. Once she's tired of Othello, once she's tired of him physically or emotionally, she would look for change. Because even Iago is a racist. Iago wants to believe, how can anyone like this man? How can Desdemona be in love with this man? She's bound to be tired of him. So that kind of a thing, even Iago buys this racist notion. He accepts this racist notion. So that is the thing here. And the thing is, Iago is a cynical human being. Because I mean, he speaks of love, and then he says, it is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will. It is merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will. There's nothing called love, love is just imagination. It's an illusion. It's not a reality. It's just lust that gives the appearance of love. So what is love? How can Desdemona fall in love? What is love? It's meaningless. It's just not possible. Because Iago, in his villainy and in his cynicism, cannot see that Desdemona genuinely loves Othello, that her feelings for Othello are real. Where power is the dominating theme, where men and women are guided by a need to express power, love cannot exist. So, Iago understands that. I mean, Iago has a deep understanding of human nature. And some of the best lines in the play are actually given to Iago. So, if love is about power, it also means that love is about possession. So, what you call, or the one whom you call your beloved, is actually your possession. You own this person. This person is an object that you cannot live without, an object that must be under your control at all times. So love is about this object of your desire. But this object has a will of its own. This object can think, this object can feel. And this object is dangerous because it can leave you at any point in time. And deep down, in spite of all his bravery, Othello is an insecure man. One, he is insecure because of his blackness, but the second most important reason why he is insecure is because he is a man. Like all men, he has to show power over the loved object. And once he feels that his power is going away, it can kill him. He can feel that he is nothing deep down. And that insecurity comes back to destroy him. So there is this deep fear of this terrible insecurity. It is something he has to live with, but it is something he cannot live with. So there is this fear in Othello that Desdemona could leave him at any point in time. Iago understands that. Iago can feel it. Iago can feel it because he is a man like Othello. He knows that he can play on Othello's weakness, his insecurity, his paranoia, his self-love, his ego, his pride, that this object or this thing called Desdemona could leave him, could play with him, could cheat on him, could sleep with another man, and thus destroy him. There is a constant reference to the Turks whom the Venetians are fighting in Cyprus. Othello has a very low kind of opinion of the Turks, because at some point when Cassio is drunk and there's a fight going on, this is what Othello has to say. Why, how, now, ho, from whence ariseth this? Are we turned Turks, and to ourselves do that which heaven hath forbid the Ottomites for Christian shame, put by this barbarous brawl? So there are Christian values and there are Turkish values. And somehow everything negative is attributed to the Turks. So it makes you wonder if Othello also is not a racist in some sense. While on the one hand he is loyal to the state of Venice, I mean his comments on the Turks in general, reflects some kind of a racism, some kind of a latent animosity of the Venetian that he has imbibed, being a loyal citizen of Venice. But I mean, again, I would like to go back to certain things, certain lines that Shakespeare puts into the mouth of Iago, where he's trying to convince Roderigo, don't worry, wait, we can destroy Cassio, we can destroy Othello, and then you can have Desdemona, she's all yours. How poor are they that have not patience? What wound did ever heal but by degrees? Thou knowest we work by it, and not by witchcraft, and wit depends on dilatory time. So even to destroy your enemy, you need patience. You need to be infinitely patient. And that is one quality as a villain Iago possesses in abundance. But it does not stop with that, needless to say, because the central theme of the play is once again jealousy, or this kind of morbid or sick attachment to the object of love. No one understood jealousy, or no one could express it or study it or give such a fine expression to jealousy as we see in Shakespeare, in the Russian novelist Dostoevsky, and in Proust. It's only in these three writers that we see a deep understanding of possessiveness or jealousy. They understood jealousy and they gave a study, a psychological study of jealousy, what jealousy is all about.